Audio now unmuted. Thanks. Speech on demand. Hello, Frida.
Hello.
Yes, how are you? Good afternoon.
Hey, Frida.
Hi, Jose.
Yeah. We're getting echo. Maybe, Jose, you can mute the speaker or something. All right. Now, welcome again, everyone. Today, we are going to be talking about Actuate Hope. Actuate Hope, and of course, you have all seen that this week we have initiated something called Actuate Africa Challenge. In Actuate Africa Challenge, our goal is to mobilize 1 million people to come into Actuate so we can, let's say to come into decentralized finance so that we can actually make the work go forward. So today we are going to talk about the Actuate Hope project itself and the Actuate Africa Challenge. What is it? Why is it important and how is it working? Why is it important to you? What is it is just the basic definition of what the Actuate Hope is all about. Why is it important is why is it relevant to you? And then how does it work? How do you get involved? So Frida will be showing us PowerPoint presentations, and then we are going to go through a whole list of questions for self-reflection. Like, what are we here? What's this all about? What is it? Why is it important to us? And then after that, we can have specific question. We get open questions, discussion questions, so that you can explain to us what does it mean to participate in Actuate Hope and Actuate Africa Challenge. So Frida, welcome. Show us, tell us what Actuate Hope is all about.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Macharia. So just a moment, let me present my screen. All right, so yeah, as you've heard, today we're going to discuss Actuate Hope. Yeah, and so Actuate Hope is powered by the Actuate token. Yeah, and so we believe that one token and one life at a time. So we're going to look at the vision of Actuate Hope. And our vision is that we want a world where every woman survives childbirth and every child takes their first breath and every young African innovator is empowered to solve real world problems through decentralized finance. And the problem we're trying to solve is the maternal and child health crisis in Africa. So one woman dies every 2 minutes from pregnancy or childbirth. And also we have 1 million plus infants who are dying before their first birthday. And also we have millions of girls who are forced into early motherhood and talented African scientists who lack funding. So that's the problem we're trying to solve using Actuate Hope. And what we believe in is that we don't lack talent. What we lack is systems to unlock it. So our solution is to use the Actuate token. And as Dr. Macharia had mentioned, the Actuate Africa Challenge, and we're going to know more about that as we go along. So we have 4 impact pillars, and the first one is healthcare delivery. We have biomedical research, and we have girls' education, and then lastly, economic uplift. How it works is that we'll have people buying Actuate tokens, and then we get funds in the smart contracts for health, education, and research. And then with that, we can get community votes, and people will be in charge of voting for projects using decentralized governance. And all this will be recorded on the blockchain. So we're going to look at the Actuate Africa Challenge. So this challenge, we are posing a questions to everyone. We are posing this question to everyone what would you do with 1 million in funding? Or what problem would you solve if you had 1 million? And so how we're going to do this is we're encouraging people to create a 30-second video where you will be answering what would you do, the question I've just asked, what would you do with 1 million in funding? And then we'll select the best ideas which will be funded with the Actuate tokens. And also we'll include the community, so the community will also be involved in voting for the best projects. Next, we're going to look at Mumbi. So Mumbi is says that she almost didn't make it. So Mumbi is a 19-year-old girl, and she gave birth with no ambulance or clinic, which is we can see these cases mostly in Africa, where we have areas which don't have access to medical clinics or even healthcare services. Yeah, and so Mumbi was saved by a community health worker. And today we can see that Mumbi is a student, is a mother, and a local leader. Yeah, so with Actuate Hope, what we're trying to do is that, or what we're doing is that we want millions of Mumbis to survive and thrive. Yeah, so we want to change the narrative of I almost didn't make it by using Actuate Hope and helping millions of girls survive and thrive. So the market opportunity is that we have in Africa we have fast growing crypto adoption, and not just in Africa but globally. You can see that crypto is being adopted, and then we also have 200 billion plus in philanthropic capital annual every year. And also we have a lot of youth-led innovation and demand for transparent giving. And we can also see that we have an untapped market for decentralized health research platforms. So there's a big gap there, and we'll take advantage of that. And so our business model includes we'll use the Actuate tokens to fuel the treasury, and also we'll issue smart contracts to vetted impact programs. And also we'll have the Actuate Academy, where we'll have paid Web3 and DeFi health innovation courses. We'll also have community upskilling, which will generate affiliate revenue. And also, lastly, we plan on having sponsorship opportunities, and also partnering with people who want to co-fund clinics, and also we'll have hackathons and challenges. And our traction and KPIs for the first year is that we'll have 100,000 plus video submissions for the Actuate Africa video. We'll also have 10 maternal clinics, funding for 10 maternal clinics, and also we'll have funding for 50 girls to go through school, and we're also planning on building having 5 biomedical research pilots, and also creating 1,000 community jobs, and distributing 1 million plus Actuate tokens. So our market strategy is that we plan on launching a viral campaign on social media platforms such as LinkedIn, TikTok, and YouTube. And we plan on activating ambassadors across Africa. Yes, so we'll have an ambassador program, and also we'll use influencers. So influencers will make videos and also earn tokens from doing that. And we'll also activate people in the university and medical school. And we'll also have monthly community calls and summit and yearly summits. So the funding we're requesting is that we are seeking for 500,000 seed round. Yeah, so the first funding we want is $500,000. And how we're going to use these funds is that we're going to scale the campaign, the Actuate Africa, to 100,000 plus participants. We're also planning on deploying and auditing smart contracts. And as I mentioned, funding 10 clinics and 5 research pilots. We'll also expand the Actuate Academy and also launch a mobile native impact tracking. So people who will be included in the team will have the Actuate Biomedicine team and also the Actuate Society. Yeah, from our previous discussions, we talked about the Actuate Society and how you can join the Actuate Society. You can do that by being a sponsor, and we talked about the different sponsor tiers from member to Patreon. And so, yeah, they'll be included in the team. We'll also have community health leaders, we'll have biomedical scientists, we'll have DeFi builders and educators. We'll also have partnerships with the universities and also hospitals and other blockchain networks. So this is your call to invest in Actuate Hope and also share the hashtag Actuate Africa Challenge. And with that, you can empower the continent through decentralized finance. So you can find us using the link actuate.bio. And yeah, you can find more information about Actuate and Actuate Hope. So thank you very much. And I'll invite Dr. Masharia for more comments.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Frida. Well, yeah, Actuate Hope, because we must do it. This campaign has already started, by the way, because we started with particularly Actuate Africa Challenge, where we want to mobilize at least 1 million people to be aware of Actuate. And of course, as Frida said, is using the social media campaign. Of course, social media is very powerful because we can reach to millions, if not billions of people. Yeah, but those billions of people will not come to Actuate just because there are billion people out there. So we have to tell them why. Why is it important for them? And why is it? Why I think if we understand why we are doing this, why is Actuate Hope important? Like Frida said, that millions of women are affected by just the basic problem of having no access to health services. Every 2 minutes, a woman die just because she got pregnant or tried to give a birth to a baby. And that is tragic. Can you imagine? Every 2 minutes? And this is a problem that we can all solve. And over the past 1 week, I have been working on this. We have been working on this. And I wrote an article yesterday or the day before yesterday called the Ledger of the Unseen. The Ledger of the Unseen. What is unseen is the labor of women. The work that women do is not visible. It is not visible in the centralized finance system. Doesn't appear anywhere in the traditional balance sheet. And that's the reason. The reason for that is just systemic exclusion of the labor of women. When I say labor, includes getting pregnant, carrying that pregnancy to term, delivering a baby, taking care of the baby, and even taking care of the household. All that work does not show up anywhere in a market. It doesn't. It's unseen. It's called the labor of unseen, and that labor is kind of extra legal. It's outside the law because it's not inside the legal framework. It's not inside the legal infrastructure. So women and all the work they do in this planet are extra legal, and because of that, no matter how hard they work, raising families, that work is never appreciated. It's never compensated. It's invisible. And that is why, we're working on this Actuate Hope. So So there are two things now we must work on diligently this week let's say this month or next month. Throughout the next say 100 days is to bring the labor of women into visibility. That's me to codify that labor. And of course, we have a technology that's called blockchain. And that's what now Actuate is all about. Actuate Hope is giving hope for codification of the labor of women. So as you have observed that this is gonna require some serious commitment in your time, commitment in your, first of all, in understanding what's this all about. Because as I said in that article, in every epic revolution or every epic revolution, like what industrial revolution, it comes out with a serious blind spots. The industrial revolution, you could say, number one, we had all these companies coming along and then creating massive pollution. Yeah, and then they destroyed the environment. That was a major blind spot. But then they gave us a lot of good stuff. But as they're giving us all that good stuff, they also came out with massive destruction. And then we had the internet itself, which another could say, internet was called the third revolution, which brought us, a lot of people on the communication platform. But then the unseen, you could say the blind spot of the internet was violation of privacy, where internet companies collect your data, your own private data, and then they sell it. And you are not able, there's nothing you can do about it. They just collect your data on a continuous basis and they're making lots of money out of your private data. And then what can you do? So, and that you see, it could say a blind spot of the internet age. And then we have the cryptocurrency right now, the blockchain. The blockchain is something that's got its own blind spots if we do not understand it. The blockchain, like crypto, people can use it for speculation purposes. Speculation, just buying and selling tokens, buying and selling token. And then we'll end up into massive blind spot, thinking about it's a zero-sum game. But the blockchain itself is able to overcome
9:48 a.m. To notificate.
blind spot. The blockchain is able to overcome the blind spot on the internet, which was privacy violation, because the blockchain is uniquely private. You have your own private key, and when you have your private key, you create your own wallet. Your own wallet is your own, and you have as a sovereign individual. So now the blockchain reestablishes the sovereignty of individual without privacy violation on the internet, and or say privacy violation of Web 2. And then you own your data. And that means is that thing of privacy of the individual is what now makes women, the labor of women become codified. And then they can actually be codified, put so many different ways, and then it can actually gain access to the market. So, and that's what we want to really emphasize in Actuate Hope and Actuate Africa. Now, Africa itself isn't a poor continent. Africa is a continent that is occupied by people whose labor is not visible, the labor of the unseen. So the only technology that can give that labor visibility to come from life capital to from dead capital to life capital, give this visibility is the blockchain itself. And what we're saying is that in Actuate Africa Challenge, we are talking about bringing the labor of people in a continent into visibility. That labor of the unseen now becomes seen by the Actuate labor. So everyone who is here, I've got lots of questions. How is this going to work? And of course, it's quite easy. Is just understanding the basic, understanding a wallet, creating a wallet, as we talked about in the beginning. You make your own wallet, and of course, the wallets through MetaMask or Trust Wallet, one of those, you have your public key, private key, and it is as simple as that. So maybe I should stop there so that if there are questions, or we can have open questions for discussions. So, any question?
I'm not seeing any questions yet, but I've posted the article in the chat. So if you want to read more about the labor of the unseen, you're going to get that article from the chat box. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any questions. So we have Drew. Drew, do you have any question?
Drew. Okay. Maybe first we can introduce himself. Drew. Hi, Drew. Could you unmute yourself? D-R-E-W.
Well, as we figure that out with Drew, maybe you can go deeper into this term you're using, codify. So that may be a technical term that people are not fully understanding, and how this word codify means that we can capture this work and put it on the balance sheet.
Oh, codify, that's a great point, because when you're talking like this, we can just be using terms
Yes,
that
yes.
people don't understand. Codify means the following. Now, when you were born, you say you were born in your community. Say a woman gives birth to a baby. That baby is not known to anybody else except the mother, maybe the father. Okay.
Mhm.
How do people get to know that baby? So the hospital, of course, notes the birth registration, enters the birth registration, and then that information is sent to the government, and the government issues a birth certificate. So that birth is encoded. A birth certificate is codification of human life. See?
Mhm.
So we know a human being by their birth certificate. Can you believe it? If you do not have a birth certificate, we do not know who you are. Yeah, well, maybe your parents can know you and people in your village can know this is the son of so and so. But if you go to another place, even to apply for school, to apply for anything, you need to produce your own birth certificate, even to get your own identity card at the age of majority. I think it's age 18 or 16, depending on the country. To apply for national identification card, you produce a birth certificate. This means that your life is already encoded, registered, encoded, and put in a ledger. A ledger is a database of names. So that database of names for the government is called a census. The government knows everybody who is born in that country by following the birth certificate. Okay, and that's it. And then because you have a birth certificate of a certain country, you become a citizen of that nation. So your life is encoded as a citizen of that nation. That's the beginning of codification. But that is not all. That is just your physical life. How about your economic life? The work that you produce every day, how is it encoded? Now, in the finance system, we have, well, of course, people have developed different mechanisms for codification of what's called property. Finance or money, the basis of money or finance is property. Where does property come from? Property means something you hold or an asset that you hold and own. For example, if you own a piece of land, again, you get a title deed, which is issued by who? The government. That's a title deed. So that land is codified. And if anyone who wants to know who owns that piece of land, they say, go to the Ministry of Land, look in their database, you're going to find who owns that piece of land. That's called private property. Okay. Now, when you want to buy a house, of course, buy a house, houses have got titles, houses got title deeds, and it's that title that you take to the bank, you can borrow money against it. Now, the work that you do every single day produces value. That value, say for example, if you grow coffee and you produce coffee beans, those coffee beans can be sold for a certain amount of money. But how can you sell coffee if you do not own it? So for someone to buy coffee from you, that person must believe that you have the rights of ownership of that coffee as your private property. Okay? Coffee, what people are buying is not coffee itself. They are buying the labor that you have put in to produce good coffee beans. Because they don't go to buy coffee from the forests. Okay? Yeah, the labor that you put in to produce good coffee beans is what people are, somebody is buying. He's not buying coffee from you. And of course, that's all it is. Whatever you do, say for example, if you own a restaurant that's making very nice food, people don't come there because they're hungry. They come there because you package the food in certain way that makes the experience very delicious. So that's the value. That thing that you use to package the recipe that you produce very good food, that is the intellectual property, and that's the summing of value. That's private property, and that's what people pay for. But then things like getting pregnant, okay? Getting pregnant, carrying a baby to term. That means going to the clinic every month, and even delivering a baby. Nobody pays you for that, even if that work is of great value. So because there has been no, in the previous economy, there has been no mechanism for codifying that value. Codification, I'm saying, is capturing the sense of the value produced. Just like a title deed, just like a birth certificate. Without a birth certificate, you don't exist. So what if you get pregnant and people don't care about your pregnancy? Your pregnancy doesn't exist. It's of no value to anybody. Yet we know it's something of great value because whatever you're going to deliver through that process of pregnancy and through labor itself, which we also call labor, it is something of great value. We call it bundle of joy. Then that bundle has no value in the finance marketplace. So codification, just like somebody receives a title deed and receives an ID certificate, they say birth certificate at birth. What if that birth certificate was also codified and put in the finance market? Or it can actually be it becomes something of value. And I'm saying these things because we are willing to pay delivery of products, parcels and packages by FedEx. That's FedEx is Federal Express. He operates here in the United States, maybe other places in the world, or maybe UPS. Let's say a packages delivery company. A packages delivery company has got their packages, that work of delivery or the labor of delivering that package codified and tradable and actually even sellable in the market. That if you were to go to the New York Stock Exchange or the NASDAQ market, you're going to see FedEx is listed there and it is selling, it's got value. And that's just a physical package. What about delivery of something of the greatest value in this human life, which is the human being? We are not able to codify it. Like, we are scared of it. We are terrified. And that is what is totally not understandable. Why are we terrified of the most important labor of life? Yeah, delivery. So codification is how the private property gets visible or seen in the market. And of course, these are different examples of the way we have put codification system. The birth certificate, the national ID, the passport, the title deeds, and all kind of things like that. And then they gain value and then they become tradable. Yeah.
Thank you.
So what I think what we should do is, Okay. So I am going. We have a whole set of.
Yeah, so yeah, we have a questionnaire where we have a whole set of questions about today's topic, Actuate Hope, and I'm going to share it on the chat. Just a moment. Yeah, so by filling this questionnaire, you also get 50 Actuate tokens. So make sure you do that.
Okay. So these questions, this questionnaire, it's also going to be available on the YouTube live stream. So and of course in the live stream you can you can answer those questions, because this questionnaire has got questions that are long term. They are not just for for today, because we want to collect information about what you think, and I'm going to tell you what these questions are all about. I'm looking for them in my PowerPoint. Yeah, I'm looking for. Yeah,
I
so
can just read them out. Did you get them?
yeah.
Okay.
So these questions are centered on the intersection between blockchain, motherhood, and economic justice. Blockchain, motherhood, and economic justice. So the first set of questions, and which you're going to find in that questionnaire, is about framing the problem, the invisible economy of motherhood. The invisible economy of motherhood. Mhm. So as you're going through the question, or would like you to think about how the traditional economic system has failed to recognize the economic value of women. See? On motherhood. So, and you can respond to that question. Think about them deeply. Has the traditional economic system failed to recognize the economic value of women, or the economic value of motherhood? Mhm. So then I would like to think deeply about why the economic work of the labor of women, particularly for carrying baby to pregnancy, carrying baby to term, carrying pregnancy to term, and of course delivering a baby and even raising the family. Why is it unbanked? And these are very important things, so that you challenge your thinking, like, why is it that women and the labor of love and motherhood does not show up in the balance sheet? Mhm. And then I would like you to think about the examples in your own community about women who embody this extra-legal economy. Extra-legal economy means that if women are not inside the economy, then what do? For example, your mother. Yes, of course, your mother, your sister, she's definitely outside, because if she's delivering babies and she's raising family and she's not considering how is she coping in that situation, and why, what does she do? What do they do in the community? Of course, I think women are trying to solve this problem in so many different ways, but tell us how they're solving this problem in your community. Huh? So when women are outside the economy or in the extra legal economy of care. Let's call it extra legal economy of care. When women are outside the economy of care, what do they have access to? How do they survive? How do they make it? What's the source of their resilience? Now, from there, we go to a sudden inflection. Think about blockchain as a tool for economic inclusion. So we'd like to think about in what ways can blockchain bring about the visibility of the work of women, the visibility of the labor of love, the visibility of motherhood, the visibility of the labor of care. Then think about how can tokenization. We have talked about tokenization before. This is your challenge. How can tokenization change the power dynamics? Tokenization is equivalent to issuing an identity card or issuing a birth certificate. But that birth certificate has got value that can be traded in the market. Usually, birth certificate gives you access to what other services like passports, like admission to high school, admission to different places. But how does tokenization change the power dynamic? And if somebody has missed our discussion about tokenization, we can discuss it later. You can ask question, what is tokenization? And this is tokenization is where you have fractional ownership. That tokenization now it can help us now create ownership for large projects like a whole health center. If you tokenized, just we talked about real estate. Last week, what were we talking about? We're talking about syndicated funding, syndicated financing. Tokenization is the same thing as syndication. Syndication is where you get a whole group of people putting money together to buy one big project, one big real estate project, for example. Say, for example, biomedical, say a clinic for motherhood, for birthplaces, birthing centers, those are real estate projects. And you see tokenization could change that power dynamics. But we also would like you to discuss further, because from your own knowledge, from your own thinking, how do you think such tokenization can change the power dynamics in financing the work of women? Yeah. And then you want to think even deeper. How can decentralized finance now, if the labor is tokenized, that means people can syndicate their work together on the decentralized finance. Now, how can we now use decentralized finance technology such as Uniswap, PancakeSwap? And by the way, today I've got very good news for you that the lawsuit against Binance was dropped yesterday. So Binance is back. Like Binance USA, we had Binance USA that has been put in serious lawsuits since 2023, 2024, and then it was excluded from market in the United States. Binance is back, and even the lawsuit against CZ himself, who's the CEO of Binance, has all been dropped, and everything is good to go. And I think that should be something for us to celebrate, because Binance has given us PancakeSwap. PancakeSwap gives us decentralized finance platform that is the cheapest and is accessible to a lot of people, even in developing countries. And that is very good news for today. And so what you're asking is, how can we use that decentralized finance energy, that whole new to fund the work of women? So we're now going to talk about the Actuate Hope itself. Actuate Hope, what's all about, what Frida has shown us. Mhm. So we would like you to think about how Actuate Hope itself would operationalize maternal health support. And we're asking these questions because we are going to continue digging deeper and deeper in the following, meetings, conversations. How would Actuate Hope operationalize maternal health? Because without maternal health, then we don't have human population. But how can we now actuate hope for maternal health? Mm. In addition, you want to understand how would Actuate Hope operationalize biomedical research in service of maternal health? Mhm. Now, finally, you want to understand how does Actuate Hope operationalize community development? Because community development is at the foundation of everything. Mhm. Then we will dive deep into understanding how the actual token will be, how we can operationalize it to make it accessible to women in the rural areas, because that's the hard part. Last week we had a discussion with Jordan Modemba. Remember Jordan with Exim and he told us about his Exion Pay.
Yes.
Exion Pay, which is mapping to the cell phone numbers, which is quite easy, similar to M-Pesa in Kenya. And I think you want to think this question, because these are questions that are going to come to mind. How does Actuate Hope get all the way down to the rural women? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then let's talk about the risk. Blockchain, because people don't understand it, they're very scared of it. Maybe a lot of people are scared, and we have to address the risk. Like, what risks do you see in women using blockchain, women in the villages using blockchain, and how can we overcome that? I think the greatest challenge right now is the user interface. A lot of people, the user interface, like when they try to open a wallet, the wallet itself has got the public key, which is 0x 18 decimals. People don't understand what is that 0x, 0x, AB, 1, 2, 3, all those numbers, alphanumerical letters. That's a public key. And then you go to a private key, that one you're not even allowed to see it. And so this is very terrifying to a lot of people. And then you're told that if somebody steals your private key, he has stolen your money. That's even more scary. Like, how do you overcome that? Well, the private key is private and it's yours, and you should not share it. But what we are talking about right now is working with developers to simplify the user interface. User interface is called a UI, like what Jordan was talking about last week, UI. How can we make the user interface so simple that seems like just making a phone call? Yeah. Or sending a WhatsApp message without having to worry about all those hexadecimals, zeros, 18 decimals or 19 decimals or things like that. And as you heard from Jordan last week, there's a lot of work going on in the background where a lot of developers, engineers are working to make the user interface as easy as possible. Let me tell you what happened. When email first came, it wasn't as easy as it is today. So a lot of work has been done to make email so easily accessible. So it's even also the telephone, making a phone call or sending a WhatsApp message. But ultimately, it's that work, and it's not gonna take like a whole 10 years. It's gonna take only another 2 or 3 years, and you find the user interface becoming very accessible. But this cannot happen if we don't rally funding. We have to rally people, as many people as possible, because to get this kind of thing working requires a lot of capital investment and a lot of goodwill. And of course, testing, so that the people who are making the user interfaces are getting feedback from the community. So that by the time the community, and that's what we are talking about, building awareness among 1 million people. 1 million people is so that we can get on a continuous basis, iterations, continuous, so that user interfaces get better and better. So like about 5 years ago, the wallets were so difficult to access. And you see, MetaMask has done a very good job. So even Trust Wallet and other, and of course, these wallets continue to improve, but they haven't reached the place where a woman in the village can just, put a cell phone number, and then she puts a pin, just like you see M-Pesa, and then she has the private key, and that is where it's coming to the next level, where Axion Pay, what you heard from last week, is that it's going to be as simple as that. It's one time, the pin, your phone number plus your pin gives you access to the blockchain, and that is how we're gonna make it easy and get everyone on board, and of course simplify the user interface and give a very, very good user experience. So in order to overcome such a problem, we have to have a great vision. Like what Stuart Hart called big, hairy, audacious goal. So big, hairy, audacious goal. That's called a vision. So the Actuate Africa challenge is a big, hairy, audacious goal. We're asking you to think, what could you do if you had $1 million in funding? Just imagine. It's about what, it's about challenging your imagination. Imagine what you could do if, for example, if you had $1 million in funding, what could you do for women in your village? What could you do? And then when you have such a big, hairy, audacious goal, such a big vision, you don't have to worry about how the vision is going to work. What I learned from Peter Senge, he said it's not what the vision is. It is how the vision works. The vision, you don't have to worry about the details of the vision working. When you have a vision, you hold it, holding the vision, then you find things falling into place one by one by one. But you have to do things like ask yourself, what could I do if I had $1 million in funding? Of course, the first thing is to express it. It is not what the vision is, it's what the vision does.
I think it's at home. Alienda kunyumba.
Oh, yeah, it's not what the vision is, it's what the vision does. What the vision does, it begins to work for you in something that is very surprising. First, what you've said is that you can make a video, and of course, in this Actuate Africa challenge, make a brief video, which is about 1 minute, tell people what you can do. And there's Frida gave you a brief description of what you should do, and I think she can show it to you again about the specific things to do. It's right now on LinkedIn and Facebook, so that make a brief video telling people what you would do if you had $1 million in funding. And then, of course, if this is a very brief video, and of course, we call them shorts on YouTube, or even TikTok. TikTok has got its own short videos. When you make a video like that, the video goes viral, depending on what your vision is. Remember, it's not what the vision is, it's what the vision does. If you know how to express your vision, people want to hear from you. People want to learn your your challenges, your pain points, what you're trying to solve. And if you don't express it, people will never know. People will know if you tell them what you think you can do with $1 million. You don't have to have the $1 million, but you have it in your vision. Yeah. And that vision, in order for it to become a reality, you have to express it in one short video. And that's why you find the social media is so powerful that people are expressing visions in a very short, brief statement. And if you don't know how to create a short video, which has got a basic hook, this is what I can do with $1 million. I could build a whole clinic in a village. I could build a birthing center. I could do this. Whatever you can think, I could dig oil. I could dig boreholes for water. This is what you could do, and this is called your wish. Your wish. You cannot achieve your wish if you do not tell other people what you wish your life could be, so that they can come and help you. And then, because it's a challenge, that video, we put it on the web, and then we send it to as many people as possible, as many people as there are in the media, in the social media. How many people are there in the social media today? About 5 billion people. And who can stop us from sending that message to 5 billion people? Nobody, because it's free. Google, it gives you free Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. There's no one stopping you from sharing your message to 1 billion people. But then we are just being very conservative. Let's send it to 1 million people. And if you send a message like that to 1 million people, then a whole percentage of them are going to respond. And we don't expect them to give you money, the $1 million. What you're saying, that's going to build a lot of awareness about your work and your wish. And then you're also going to receive actual tokens. And the video that's going to receive the most engagements, let's call it engagements on the media, is going to receive funding in form of actual tokens. We give you actual tokens, and that is how we actuate. And of course, if we do this thing, and of course we mobilize people in the entire African continent, because not necessarily in African continent, even outside Africa, because this labor of women is not seen anywhere, even among the Americans, not even among the European women. It's not just African women whose labor is unseen. This unseen labor for women affects all women in the world. And I'm not even lying to you. Women form half the population of the planet. About 50% of the 7 billion people who live here are women. That means it's a very wide market, and you want to say, what could you do for women if you had $1 million in your community? Yeah. Women, think about your local women. Don't think about women in a strange place. Think about your mother, your sister, your aunties. What could you do if you had $1 million? We're talking about wishful thinking. But let me tell you, nothing is real in this planet. Everything that is made comes from things that are not made. That is what
Well, I actually learned or understand that everything is made twice. It's made first in your mind, from the imagination first, then it's made in a tangible form. So yeah, that's I call that, or I refer to that as a dream. And I recently came across a story that was pretty remarkable, that shows what happens when you express your dream to the public or to people in your sphere. There was a security guard at an art museum. A random person came up for help. He wanted to know about the Egyptian display. And the security guard told him about the Egyptian display. And then he also said, by the way, I make Egyptian art too.
Yeah.
And he said, my dream is, to have my art, known. And this guy happened to be one of the curators of the museum itself. And he didn't know.
Amazing.
And then the curator put that his artwork, the security guard's artwork, in there, and now he's he's famous for his artwork, and he still works there as a security guard.
He just expressed himself.
Yeah.
That's the whole point. Expressing yourself is everything. If you don't say your dream, nobody will know it, and your dream is finished. So that's why we're doing this challenge. Challenging people to express your dream, and do not be shy. Your dream is yours. Because as Paul said, not even Paul, even before Paul, there was John, John in the Holy Bible. He said, everything that is made came from things that were not made. Everything that is seen, I think that's everything that is seen comes from things that are not seen. So as Jose Rodriguez said, it comes first of all from thoughts. It's made up in your mind first, and then it becomes a reality. But the distance between your thoughts and reality is a very wide rift, because what causes people to fail to express the dream is something called unbelief. You don't believe that you can get $1 million. Yeah, you don't believe you can get $1 million, okay? So you will not get $1 million if you don't believe.
Yeah.
And again, another statement says, those who have, even more is given, and they have abundance. But those who do not have, even the little they think they have is taken away, and they lose everything. So this is not something for the unbelieving. If you don't believe it, forget about it. So the first requirement for you to get that, say, $1 million challenge, getting that $1 million, first of all, you have to believe that's actually possible. And this time we are saying, you have the technology to get this, which is called the blockchain, and we have communication technology like WhatsApp. We have communication technology like Zoom. So what is stopping you? And then you have the whole internet full of 9 billion people, about 7 billion people. And all you have to do is go to work. First of all, but you cannot go to work unless you believe. So believe is fundamental. Okay, so that's so when you're thinking about that video itself, think what kind of problems should you prioritize? What should you already you know it in your heart. You actually know what's going on. So don't overthink about it, because if it's just yourself, you're very authentic. What people like and what people love is authenticity. People don't like glamorous things that or highly polished videos, but they want to get your very authentic self. If you've seen the rise of, say, TikTok, TikTok does not come with very glamorous videos. It's about you presenting your own idea, just yourself, the way you are. Like you see, like man on the street, just your own life. Say, this is what I would do if I had $1 million, and I can do this kind of thing. And this is the challenge that we have in our community, and this is the way I would solve it if I had $1 million. So don't overthink it. And then you can do it many times. Okay. If you do it once and you think you didn't do well, you can do it again and again and again. So repetition is what creates a habit. Your habit is things that you do repeatedly, and those things that you do repeatedly help to define yourself. Okay. So so you can think about different types of challenges in like innovations in a community development, maybe clinical innovations, like making new medicines using herbal, herbal products in your community. You already know that women use herbs, but you do not know how they work. But if you had $1 million, you would help scale up the herbal medications they use for managing their homesteads. Even education program, educating lots of women and girls in your community, or even infrastructure funding, building infrastructure like health clinics, maternity centers, and such. So then the other set of questions about the legal, ethical, and systemic implications of all this, the blockchain itself. So what do you want? What you want to think about is the role of lawyers and policymakers and regulators, because these people make a lot of important decisions that can either, make your project work or the project's going to fail. And so we have to include them. We have to include the lawyers in the community. I think what I usually see is that people do their jobs, they don't involve the lawyers in the community. So the legal fraternity doesn't know what's going on. So they cannot defend you. If you get in legal trouble, of course, even the government comes in to ask you questions, what are you doing? So think about how to mobilize lawyers in your community. Think about the policymakers. Some of these people are working in the government. And think about the regulators, that be members of parliament, senators represent your local representatives like MPs, members of parliament, and senators, and House representatives. Think about them and what role can they play? Should they play? And because many of them are not well versed with what blockchain is all about, and they're not going to get versed if you don't tell them. So it's your job to get, these lawyers are many because they're your friends, brothers, sisters, so you can speak directly to somebody who is in legal practice, and you explain to them, this is what I'm doing in blockchain. And initially some lawyers do not know, because it's quite surprising for me, because the smart contract is a legal document. It was actually written by a lawyer. The smart contract was written by a lawyer, the very first smart contract, who studied computer science, and then he brought law into computer science. But today, about 50, maybe almost 20 years later, but after smart contracts were invented, very few lawyers know what it's all about. Lawyers are still on paper, heaps of paper, my goodness.
Yes.
And if you tell lawyers to go on the blockchain, they would say, what that is, what's that? It's actually surprising.
I work at a law firm,
Yeah.
and yeah, the whole building is full of fire hazards of just stacks of paper. Yes, so they're still stuck in the past, and I don't hear any conversations about blockchain. I do see emails and correspondence about cryptos, but not about blockchain.
Yeah, that is what's really surprising, because blockchain is a legal document, smart contract, let's say that. And it is the smart contract is one for representative of private property. Private property is a legal question. And this is what I wonder, why is it that lawyers are not getting this? And lawyers, I mean, they're the ones who are left behind among all the other professions. Well, you could say medicine, it's like medicine now, we have electronic health record. Like if you were to go to Mass General Hospital, you're not going to tell you, bring a whole, but lawyers, you have to sign physical documents.
Also, real estate agents are getting on the blockchain and and using smart contracts and stuff. So yeah, even real estate agents are doing that. That I would say that's partly because, as opposed to lawyers that charge an hourly fee and they get paid even if they do no work, as long as they're contracted for that time. Real estate agent, they don't get paid unless they are competitive and they're on point. They keep on top of markets, and they innovate, they distinguish themselves. So yes, I think maybe that's one reason why.
Yeah, so in this actual challenge, I think the next group of people we must target and focus is lawyers. They go to law schools, legal students, because law students is the university, they're studying law. Those are the easier ones. those lawyers already in practice are going to say, just give me my paper, I need to sign.
Yes.
But law students who are in college, we need to mobilize them as ambassadors for the blockchain, for the smart contract, and then we educate them. So think about that. Of course, many of those law students are also the ones to become policymakers after graduation, and they become regulators because a lot of members of parliament, senators have come from, the law, come from law school. So that's what I'm thinking, that we have to bring law students, let's say legal fraternity, into the center of the blockchain, knowing that the smart contract itself is a legal document that was created way back when, and till today, law school does not teach students about smart contracts. Isn't that funny? Yeah.
It's strange.
Yeah, it's really crazy that you will not find a course in let's learn how to build smart contracts for our students. Yeah. Mhm. Now, when you have now legal fraternity involved, now we're going to talk about the ethical questions, because we can now, if they're on board with us, let's say on board on the blockchain, then you're talking about the ethical use of data, and we can now help to advise. As we said in the beginning, blockchain decentralized data ownership. You become the sovereign owner of your data. Instead of having one giant company owning the data, you are the individual owning the data. But that needs to be explained very well in legal terms, such that, but if we have lawyers who do not understand it, then what? Yeah. So lawyers and legal fraternity is going to help us even understand, even explain to people about the ethical use of data, and how can you, now when you own that data, we're talking about very, very, very personal data about pregnancy, carrying baby to term, delivering a baby. See, that's extremely personal, and it's going to appear on the blockchain itself. And then how do we ensure ethical use of that data? And now meeting that privacy, so that you see your private key is your private key, not your key, not your data. So, so we need lawyers, because who understand law, to help us to unravel this whole thing. But they cannot unravel it if they themselves do not even know what the blockchain is all about. That's what I'm talking. And another question in terms of regulations, regulatory bodies, is how do we integrate the blockchain funding, blockchain maternal health funding? Can we integrate that to the public health funding? So public is created by regulatory agencies or the regulatory bodies, like let's say parliaments. But then we have highly private decentralized finance or decentralized funding. Can we integrate it, like what we call public-private partnership? And that's a policy. You could say there could be government policy, and we have to think deeply, because so far, if you ask many people in this world, they will tell you that healthcare provision is the work of the government. It's a public duty, because healthcare is public good, or maternal health is public good. Yes, that's the current mode of thinking. Maternal health is public good. However, if they're saying it's public good, they're not paying for it. Yeah. So they're just saying, oh, maternal health is public good, but not it's not even public good. It's like public bad.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, because it's so bad in so many places. So now how can we, if you're saying maternal health is public good, this means that public organizations, the government organization, have got a lot of interest in achieving maternal health for their own population. However, they are not able to do it because delivering a baby is a very private experience. the sacred experience. There's nothing public about that. Nobody delivers a baby in public. Okay, the baby is delivered. You're not even delivering, conceiving a baby. The baby is not conceived in public. So all this public good talk is kind of what? It's a very private event. Conceiving a baby, you know how you conceive a baby. You don't conceive in public. Carrying the baby to term, it's all the work of the woman, maybe, and her husband, and see, in the immediate family. Delivering the baby in the maternity is all private. At which point does it become public good? You don't know. It becomes public good because they say it is, but in reality, it's 100% private. So that's the one thing that you want to acknowledge. Is this thing called signaling the public goodness for private goods, and that creates a great confusion. But then we can overcome that confusion. We can continue with the narrative of the public good at the same time, whereas we recognize the privateness of motherhood, the privateness of conception, the privateness of carrying pregnancy to term, the privateness of delivery, and the privateness of raising families. Families are not public. Families happen in a family, but then we of course misconstrue them to be public good for the sake of saying that. But then when you hold when now you hold you're held accountable, you cannot say that any of that thing happens in private. None of those things happen in private. Sorry, none of those things happen in public. They're all private. And what you say, how can we now reconcile these things? Public good, private good. And of course, we have had the rhetoric since the 1990s of PPP, public-private partnership, which was an idea of financing invented in Australia. And when it came along in Australia, they were able to raise money for private equity financing to fund hospitals and clinics, which are public good organized companies, let's say, raising private equity to fund hospitals and clinic. And they fund those things using the process called concession. Now, we don't have to go into that, financial engineering concession. It's already on the blockchain and it's very simple, straightforward without having to go. So public good becomes almost spontaneous because the blockchain is able to capture the sense of the privateness of the private good and then produce public good all by itself. So blockchain is able to capture the sense of privateness of the private good, and then it's able to, the public good that comes out is a consequence, is an effect of the capturing the private good. And that's what, and we would have to explain to the public good, these proponents, tell them that the public good is a consequence, is a result of the work of the private good itself. You cannot have public good without private good. So, for example, you cannot produce the baby who's going to become a human being without a very private act of conception of the baby. See that? So the baby is conceived privately, but it's produced as a public good, it becomes a human being. So this is what you're saying, that we have come all the way down to the extreme left, where you have we are able to capture the essence of the value, encode the value of the private good, and now the effect of it is public good. So talking about the effect without the cause is what? An adventure in missing the point. See? Talking about the effect. Public good is the effect, private good is the cause. Talking about the effect without the cause, it's an adventure in missing the point. And that's why going around saying we are funding public good, it's why we are not able to produce public good. Yeah, that's called fixes that fail. Fixing the public good without thinking about the private good causes a whole adventure. And of course, this is what causes maternal mortality. Women die because you're thinking of it from the public good perspective. We are not thinking from it from the private good that is actually is. The cause itself is private, the effect is public. Yeah. So now think about those things, and even this question, because we are going to pose this questionnaire throughout, and we'd like you to answer all those questions based on what we discussed, and then how you can communicate with your public policymakers, let's say regulatory agents, like members of parliament. You tell them what they talk about in public is public good, is actually private cause. Now, and you want to tell them something called cause-effect relationship. It's called causality. So public good is an effect of private action. Okay? So next section, we talk about moving from vision to action. Now, moving from vision to action. Now think about for yourself, what are 3 steps you must take this month? This month is the month of June. June is beginning tomorrow. What are the 3 things you must do this month to produce Actuate Hope? So Actuate Hope, hope is an effect again. Hope is an effect. The cause of the effect is the steps you're going to take. So what steps do you have to take this month? And you can answer those questions. These things we are not asking so that you can give us the answers. These things are to help you answer the questions in your mind, but it's good for you to write them. Write them in that questionnaire, because we're going to analyze this questionnaire later this month, and they say, what steps did we say we can take? And then what have we done so far? Now, think about how we can recruit and equip ambassadors and allies. These ambassadors and allies are going to be in the universities, in colleges, in high schools, and in organizations, or even in families. And well, they will be in not only in the universities, but even in clinics, health centers, and in tech hubs, wherever you are. How can we think about how we can mobilize people as ambassadors? And of course, this week also we wrote about mobilizing about 1,000 ambassadors. 1,000 ambassadors. And Frida, could you share the article on 1,000 ambassadors, or we can share it later, even in our YouTube group. And of course, you're going to talk about recruiting 1,000 ambassadors. These ambassadors are going to be in colleges, universities. They're going to be in local high schools, and these are people, addressing all these questions that we talked about, so that we build awareness completely through and through in all levels of communities. So think about what success will look like for Actuate Hope. Remember, hope is an effect. Hope is an effect. But there has to be the cause of that hope to emerge. The cause is the actions. What does that look like in 1 year, and how can we measure it? What metrics shall we use to measure it? How shall we know we are being successful? All right. So I think this the question we would like to address as we go along, but Now the ball is the ball is in your court. Let's see how we can move forward with all that. So Frida, are there any questions, comments?
Yeah, we don't have any questions or further comments. Or if you have a comment or a question, you can go ahead and post it on the chat or unmute. I'm going to post the article for the ambassadors in the chat, but as you said, we're going to post it also in the YouTube channel, so you can go check it out. Yeah.
I have a,
Yeah.
I think, is it a question? I'm trying to remember how I want to formulate it. Oh yes, it's not a question, but it's something maybe you can expand on. So earlier you said that, when it comes to like, I think fears of blockchain, and maybe some of the like concerns about, this technology. I think some of that comes from the lack of lack of presence in society. The scalability is low because which is actually a good thing, and I want you to comment on that. Blockchain is not ubiquitous at this point, and one reason why is because of validation, proof of work, and etc. So one thing that we haven't really talked about in previous meetings is the time it takes to do this validation. It takes an average of 10 minutes to confirm and validate a new block for the blockchain, which is actually a part of the high level security that the blockchain has. But because of that, it's hard to scale the blockchain because we're validating each block by 10 minutes versus traditional transactions, which happens in seconds or milliseconds. So that is one of the limitations of blockchain. But when it comes to scalability, but when it comes to security, it's one of the greatest benefits. Can you elaborate on that?
All right. Thank you so much, Jose. Validation of transaction or the block approval time. Yeah.
Yes.
That's
And how that
in the bit
how that makes it hard for blockchain to become ubiquitous quickly, how to scale globally quickly, and which would then give cause or concern to people saying, well, hey, I don't see blockchain everywhere. It's been out for years and it's not doing anything. How come? And that causes concern.
Yes. When blockchain came along around 2008, and then you send a transaction, it took about 10 minutes. Yeah.
Well, it still currently takes about average 10 minutes because of the validation. Yeah. Yes.
Currently, it doesn't take 10 minutes. It takes seconds. But that's the beginning. That was taking 10 minutes.
When did that when did it speed up that fast?
Oh, over the past 15 years. Now, let me tell you what happened. So they started talking about increasing the transaction speed. And so on the Bitcoin network, they invented the Lightning network. Lightning
You guys heard of this?
Yeah, Lightning network to increase the transaction speed, the transaction per second. Lightning network is still using the proof of work, which is still slow. And then, so in around 2016, EOS, this guy called EOS, I can't remember the name, he invented called proof of stake. So proof of work is slow, and proof of stake came along where you can actually.
Oh yes, okay.
So proof of work, these are scaling mechanisms, scaling the amount of transaction you can get per second. So proof of work increased tremendously the transactions per second. And of course, Vitalik Buterin and the guys in Ethereum network have been working on very different mechanisms for increasing transaction speed, and they came with different proposals, what they call EIP, Ethereum Improvement Proposals. And so in the about 2017, 2018, they were talking about what are they calling them? Beacon chain and beacon chains. And then in and then of course in 2023, maybe from 2020s, they created something called layer 2. You know layer 2?
Yeah, isn't there
Ethereum blockchain.
I think 4 or 5 layers or 6? I think it's up to 6, right?
No, layer 2, layer 2 the blockchain is,
But the total layer number is,
those are 7 layers of the internet you think
yes.
about.
Oh, that's probably what I'm thinking.
Yeah. So the layer 2 blockchains are operating through a technology called zero knowledge proof. ZK. And so you have the main chain, which is got on proof of stake right now, which is called Ethereum network.
Mhm.
It's actually increased the validation speed from 10 minutes
Mhm.
to seconds. Okay. But they're still not as fast as Visa. Visa
Yes.
will
Yeah, that was my original point. Yes.
Yes, Visa was doing what it's doing, maybe about 1,000
milliseconds, I think.
per second, but they could only do up to 16 per second. Okay.
Mm.
But then the zero knowledge proof meant that they would create second layer. The second layer is another blockchain that's collecting all the transactions and then validating them outside the chain,
Oh,
off chain.
this has to do with block size and block weight, so that
Mhm.
you can have a high portion of the transaction, like about 66% of it done on the second layer. All that heavy work, all the heavy lifting is done on the second layer,
Yeah,
and
it's
that makes the first layer.
It's done outside.
Yeah, that's the outside work is done through.
Yes, and if so, then if it's done outside, then it's presented
Yes.
to the layer 1 chain,
Mhm.
like, and then it said if all those things are okay, then they are approved at once.
Yes.
So they'll be now assembling a whole thousands, a whole bunch of transactions, and then they're presented once. So if it was taking only 16 transactions per second, there'll be 16,000 transactions, because if says the second layer has got 1,000,
Mhm.
then it can actually give 1,000, 1,000, 1,000 every second. See, 16 times. So it becomes 16,000 instead of 1,000. And that now scales it all the way to the level of Visa. And that is on Ethereum blockchain. So then comes along Solana. Solana, I don't even know what they have done. They have made the technology for scaling that is Blitz, almost equivalent to Visa. Yeah. So the validation for transaction has caught up with the traditional finance system already. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about that part. I forgot.
So yeah, what's lack of adoption today is because blockchain is not being taught in colleges and in high school. People are not talking about it. But you see, nobody taught people social media in colleges. And nobody taught people how to use Facebook or anything. But I think blockchain is much more important than, say, social media. And I think that this is something that should be taught in every college, every university, so that people learn how to use it. And of course, there are new technologies coming like AI, like GPT. If they're teaching AI in colleges, then they should teach blockchain in colleges themselves. Yeah. Okay. So, people should not avoid blockchain because the transactions are slow. They're actually as fast as the traditional transactions today on the Ethereum blockchain, on Solana, and even other blockchain right now, because they have managed to get even the Bitcoin network itself, because Bitcoin is layered, it's got the Lightning network, and that has managed to scale the transactions per second. Okay. All right. Okay, Frida. So if there is any other question, we can adjourn the meeting. And so now we have announced the Actuate, the Actuate Africa Challenge and Actuate Hope. What's all about? It's about the value of the work of mothers. Okay. Any questions? Anything else, Frida?
We don't have anything else. I think, yeah, we don't have anything else or any questions. So we can go ahead and fill the questionnaire, and then yeah, remember to fill in the questionnaire and check out the articles. Also, record the video, the 30-second video. You can record yourself telling us what you'll do if you had 1 million in funding, what projects you'll maybe want to develop in your community. And so thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. And we can enjoy the meeting and meet next Saturday, same time. You can also check out this video on YouTube. It's recorded, so in case you missed the first part, you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube channel, which is Actuate Nation. Yeah, so does anybody else have any more comments? All right, so we can finish up and see you next time.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Frida. Thank you, Jose. Thank you. Drew never asked any question. Drew was there?
Yeah, I think he's left. Let me see. Yeah, he's left. We
Okay.
have Mr. Ebengo.
Oh,
Yeah, he's left.
Emmanuel, Ibanga. Yeah, hello.
He's just dropped off.
Oh, he was silent. Okay.
Okay.
All right.